Hi guys, my name is Trinity, and if you are here, you must be here to talk about books because that's why I am here, to talk about books. And in today's video, I am going to be talking to you guys about some great audiobooks. And I will try to separate these into genres and go from there. But I have some really great audiobooks that I'd like to talk about because they're, as you guys know, I do quite often do immersive reading, which is listening to the audio while physically reading the book. You guys know why I do this. I have ADHD and dyslexia, and sometimes that is the best way for me to absorb a story. And so I do have a tendency to listen to a lot of audiobooks. So let's go into some literary fiction first. And the first one I would like to talk about is one that I very recently listened to, and that would be Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. I thoroughly enjoyed the way this was narrated. The audiobook narrator is Maren Ireland. And this is my first audiobook that I have listened to with their voice. I really think that Maren captured the different characters' voices really, really well. And now I did listen to this book at a 1.75 speed, and it was still really, really good, really immersive. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I loved Maren's voice, and I think that being able to actually give voice to multiple characters in a book is something that a lot of people are not great at, but Maren did an absolutely fantastic job. The second one that I would like to talk about would be Burial Rites by Hannah Kent, narrated by Maureen Christie. This book is very dark, very atmospheric, and very, very hard to read. Very crass at times. And when I say hard to read, I mean there are very dark elements explored in this book, so I would like to point that out before talking about it. But the narration of this book was so beautifully done, and you really got to feel for the main character. And while this book is very well written, I do think that Maureen really, really added to this character in a brilliant way. And I loved it so much that I have considered re-listening to this book because while I love the book itself, the narration was very, very well done. Next would be The Midnight Library by Matt Haig, narrated by Carey Mulligan. So our main character for The Midnight Library is very depressed, and I think Carey's narration really reflects that. I think she does a very good job at pulling on emotions and really delivering a narration that lets you know that this woman is going through some stuff. And the angst of her voice just adds to the fact that our main character is not okay. And I loved it for that fact. I think that that added to the immersion reading that I was doing at the time. Just hearing the emotions in Carey's voice as she is narrating this book really, really made me like blow through the book. I think this is one of them that I actually read and listened to in a day. Okay, moving on to fantasy. The first that I would like to recommend to you guys is From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout, narrated by Stina Nielsen. And I thought this book as an audiobook was so good. So good. This is another that I did immersive reading with, and listening to it while holding the book, I thought was so good, so brilliantly done. I really think that she added to the character of Poppy. She did a great job with Hawk as well, but I think that listening to her as Poppy was one of those things where you almost feel like the narrator is Poppy. And so I thought that it was really well done, and I loved her voice. Loved it. Now, this is one that I kind of slowed down the audio because I was enjoying Stina's voice so much. And did it make it where I got through From Blood and Ash a little slower than normal? Sure. But I thought it was very well worth it. Nevernight, narrated by Holter Graham. Holter Graham can narrate any book for me. The snarkiness of J. Kristoff's writing paired with Holter Graham's narration, yes, I adore it so much. I am very interested to find out what else Holter Graham has narrated. If so, I'm ready to pick up whatever it is. So I have been working my way through the Faithful and the Fallen series, and the only way I am able to do so is through audio, because these books have so many characters that it kind of fries my brain. But I have very much enjoyed doing immersive reading for the Faithful and the Fallen, and Damian Lynch is the narrator. While John Gwynne does not give character distinctions in a way that I find enough to separate characters in the books, Damian Lynch's narration does. So I feel like this is the only reason I am making it through the Faithful and the Fallen. Like, if I had to physically read these, your girl would be screwed. But again, this has to do with my ADHD. Nothing against John Gwynne at all. But doing the immersive reading and listening to Damian Lynch's narration, I can separate these characters by voice quality, and that really, really helps. So if you have been having issues with the large cast of characters in The Faithful and the Fallen and don't think it's the book for you because of the large cast of characters, definitely give the audiobooks a try. Now I'm going to talk about a narrator that I associate with a specific author, and that would be Stephen Brand. Stephen Brand's narration is spectacular, amazing, brilliant. And I own all of the physical copies of Anthony Ryan's books and all of the audio copies of Anthony Ryan's books because of Stephen Brand. His narration is so amazing. So amazing. His voice is gorgeous, and I cannot get past how brilliant his audiobooks are. Well, Anthony Ryan's audiobooks are because of Stephen Brand. And I am very interested and intrigued to see if Stephen Brand has done any other narration. But because he narrates my favorite author and he's already amazingly brilliant, I just want to sit down and listen to Bloodsong, the Draconis Memoria. He has signed on for The Pariah as well, and I'm so excited about that. If you guys have the chance to listen to Stephen Brand, Bloodsong, Draconis Memoria, The Pariah, do so, because so good. So good. The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss and narrated by Nick Padell. I think Nick Padell does such a great job with Kvothe. This is another where I think the narrator and the character just match up so well together. And this is Kvothe's voice. You just know that this is Kvothe's voice. There couldn't be any other person that this could be Kvothe's voice. And I really love listening to Patrick Rothfuss' lyrical prose via Nick Padell. And I really think that a lot of people who have trouble getting into Patrick Rothfuss' lyrical writing would really enjoy Nick Padell's narration. Let us talk about some sci-fi. And the obvious and first choice that I am going to talk to you about would be To Sleep in a Sea of Stars by Christopher Paolini. Narrated by none other than Jennifer Hale herself, Commander Shepard from Mass Effect. And I have said before that this book reads like a Mass Effect game. So how could it not be Commander Shepard? Anyone else might have gotten it wrong. But I really think that Jennifer Hale, her voice, guys, her voice is one of those that I could sit and listen to for days. Because she has one of those very rich female voices that is deep, but also still very feminine. I love Jennifer Hale's voice so much. Now, is this because I absolutely love Mass Effect? Probably. However, anyone I have talked to who has listened to Sleep in a Sea of Stars has said the exact same thing. That they could listen to Jennifer Hale's voice for forever and be totally okay. She could narrate any book we read and it would be fine. But I think that she does a fabulous job with To Sleep in a Sea of Stars. And if you tried to read the book and couldn't get into it, there is a solid chance that Jennifer Hale will add enough to the book that you could listen to it on audio should you choose to do so. Now, I don't know if this is a trend in sci-fi, but Zero World by Jason M. Huff. I know I out myself as a BioWare fan all the time. I'm not shy about it. I really love BioWare games. And Jason M. Huff is a BioWare fan himself. I've met him. I've talked to him about it. Called him Commander Shepard for wearing an N7 jacket around a writers' conference for a week. Or a weekend. And this book is narrated by Gideon Emery. Now, you guys might not know who that is. But if you are a Dragon Age fan, you are keenly aware of who Gideon Emery is. He is the voice of Fenris. And if you guys play video games, there is a very large chance you have heard his voice before because he is very active as a narrator to a lot of video games. Very sought after because his voice is like velvet. Just so smooth and deep and rich. I adore his voice. He is another that I could listen to for days and not tire of. It is one of those voices that, again, just adds to the story. So good. So good. And I adore it so much. Now, Zero World, let's talk about the book for a minute because It is sci-fi. It is very, very action-packed. I love this book. However, here is the crux. And I have talked to him about it, and he has said that because the Darwin elevator is so popular and Zero World never really caught on to a huge audience, he has been in contract to write more of the Darwin elevator, and very recently got a contract for the second book in the Zero World series, and it has not been published yet. So if you get into this, there is a heck of a cliffhanger, and the second book is not out. So you might want to wait just a little bit, but I do think Gideon Emery and Zero World is a perfect combination. Okay, next I'm going to talk about 2 horror novels that I think are amazing audiobooks. And the first is one of the books that I read this last week, but I really loved the audiobook and the immersive reading process of this book. Kingfishers, The Hollow Places, read by Hilary Huber. Her narration made the cheeky moments of this telling so good, so good. I adored it so much. And I really think that this is a book, I talk about immersive reading a lot because that is what I do. But this is a book that you could just have fun with listening while cleaning, your house or something like that. Because she adds so much entertainment value to the book itself. And I just think that this is one of them I'm going to go back and listen to because I had such a good time. Even though it's horror, the cheeky elements, they give it just another level of entertainment value. And so again, that is the reason that I recommend the audiobook. Just her sarcasm in this story is spot on. The breaking of the fourth wall with the narration is spot on with her narration. I think it's so great. Everybody should try it. So the next one that I want to talk about is Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson. This is narrated by Brianna Collette. And again, this is another where I really feel like Brianna and Emmanuel, they really mesh well as this is the voice of Emmanuel. And I think that it suits the story so well. And when I hear Brianna's voice, I'm like, yeah, that's Emmanuel. I can totally hear it. And it's probably another audiobook that I will go back and listen to again. I'm going to, because this is a series. So I will probably listen to the audiobook when the next book comes out, because again, this is one of my favorite books of 2020. And I've said before, I'll say it again for this video, if I could have written a book, this would probably be the book I wrote. It's that much to my taste. So if you don't like the books that I read, then this is not the book for you, because this is 100% to my taste. Okay, now I want to talk about some young adult series that I think are very good in audiobook form. And the first would be Scythe by Neil Shusterman, narrated by Greg Tremblay. I thought Greg Tremblay did a very good narration of Scythe. Scythe is a very dark concept, and I think his voice brought to life the fact that this is dark, but also the norm. And when he started delving into characters' thought processes, you could tell that many of these people had the process or the thought process that this was normal. This was just how life is. And you could tell when that wall broke for them, whenever, or due to his narration. And so I really, really appreciated that about his narration of these books. Next would be The Bone Witch by Ren Shepeko, narrated by Emily Wu Zeller and Will Dameron. I blew through these books because of their narration. Now, I don't own these books physically, so I did them fully through audio, and I still fell in love with the story. Still fell in love with it, and I really loved how these two narrators combined to make this story what it is. And I can't attest to physical versus audio for this particular one, but I will say if you are looking for a young adult series that is quick and entertaining and has good narration, this is it. It's a trilogy, so you can get through it very quickly. Now, these have been on the free catalog for Audible for quite some time. I don't know if they are still there, but that is how I listened to them. And I really enjoyed Ren Shepeko's writing. I really liked the way she delivered this story. So I would recommend these anyway, because I do think that Ren Shepeko has a great story to tell with these books. Now, the next and final series that I want to talk about is the Arcana Chronicles by Kresley Cole. There's a reason I'm putting this off to the last, and that is because this is a series that not everyone loves. And I think not everyone loves it because our main character in the first book takes a long time to like. And she's annoying. She really is. But one of the things about this particular series is that the world has been destroyed. And everybody that is alive is just trying to survive. And now it's been a little while since I've listened to these books, so I am going to try and keep this brief because there are a lot of elements of it that I have forgotten over the years. But this was one of the first audiobooks that I thoroughly enjoyed. And it had a lot to do in Kevin Knobb's narration of the books. But I want to say the main character of this story, she is very young. And in the beginning of the books, you can tell she is very young. Now, that does change over time. She does mature, and it's just getting through the beginning parts where she's really whiny that a lot of people have problems with. But I do like this series as a whole. I do like Kresley Cole's writing. She writes a lot of urban fantasy and fantasy romance. And I think that this is a very underrated series because a lot of people can't get through the first book without being annoyed by the main character. And if you feel like you can push through the first part of the book where she is that way, then I think you will love the story as well. But that is it for my video today. Like, subscribe, do all the fun things, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!